Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare.
Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar
Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Gaur
Chaitanya
Bhaktavinda
Prabhu Nityananda
Shri
Shri
Krishna
Advaita
Chaitanya
Gadadhar
Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita
Shri Krishna
Gadadhar
Chaitanya
Shri
Prabhu
Gaur
Nityananda
Bhaktavinda
Shri Advaita
Shri
Gadadhar
Krishna
Shri
Chaitanya
Vasari
Prabhu
Gaura
Nityananda Shri
Bhaktavinda
Advaita Shri Gaur Bhaktavinda Haribo.
Hare Krishna.
Shri Hare Govind
Hare
Gajendra Haribo Mahatma Singh
Hare Krishna Prabhu Dandavat Dandavat
Prabhuji Ki Jai.
Hare Krishna
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Good to see you.
Hare
Hare
everyone.
Krishna, everyone.
Hare Krishna.
Haribo. Our internet finally kicked in.
Yeah, finally internet worked.
We tried for almost like 15 minutes.
And then, well, anyway, we turned things off and on, and eventually it worked.
Sometimes,
Yeah, even we were having a hard time.
Yeah.
And sometimes it just doesn't want to work.
all right, Rohit. So we'll get started.
All right.
Hare Krishna.
So we'll start with 32 shlok. Shlok 32.
No, Slok 32.
यावानहं यथा भाव यद्रूप गुण कर्म कह तथैव तत्त्वविज्ञानम् अस्तु ते मदनुग्रहात्. All of me, namely my actual eternal form and my transcendental existence, color, qualities and activities, let all be awakened within you by factual realization out of my causeless mercy.
Hey, so this is the verse right before the four most famous verses of the Bhagavatam. This is Krishna speaking to Lord Brahma after Brahma has done his penance in order to have the intelligence to create to be the creator of the things in the universe. And this is a long purport which highlights what has just been said by Krishna, that he's basically saying, by my grace, I'm awakening everything in you. So here we go with the purport. The secret of success in understanding the intricacies of knowledge of the absolute truth, the personality of Godhead, is the causeless mercy of the Lord. Even in the material world, the father of many sons discloses the secret of his position to the pet sons. The father discloses the confidence unto the son whom he thinks worthy. An important man in the social order can be known by his mercy only. Similarly, one must be very dear to the Lord in order to know the Lord.
The Lord is unlimited. No one can know him completely, but one's advancement in the transcendental loving service of the Lord can make one eligible to know the Lord. Here we can see that the Lord is sufficiently pleased with Brahmaji, and therefore he offers his causeless mercy to him, so that Brahmaji may have the factual realization of the Lord by his mercy only.
Nala Prabhu?
In the Vedas also it is said that a person cannot know the absolute truth, personality of Godhead, simply by dint of mundane education or intellectual gymnastics. One can know the supreme truth if one has unflinching faith in the bona fide spiritual master as well as in the Lord. Such a faithful person even though illiterate in the mundane sense, can know the Lord automatically by the mercy of the Lord. In the Bhagavad Gita also it is said that the Lord reserves the right of not being exposed to everyone, and he keeps himself concealed from the faithless by his Yog Maya potency.
Parag?
To the faithful, the Lord reveals himself in his form, quality, and pastimes. The Lord is not formless, as wrongly conceived by the impersonalist, but his form is not like one that we have experienced. The Lord discloses his form, even to the extent of measurement, to his pure devotees, and that is the meaning of Yavan. Is explained by Srila Jeev Goswami, the greatest scholar of Srimad Bhagavatam.
Deva?
The Lord discloses the transcendental nature of his existence. The mundane wranglers make mundane conception of the form of the Lord. It is said in the revealed scriptures that the Lord has no mundane form. Therefore, persons with a poor fund of knowledge conclude that he must be formless. They cannot distinguish between the mundane form and the spiritual form. According to them, without a mundane form, one must be formless. This conclusion is also mundane because formless is the opposite conception of the form. Negation of the mundane conception does not establish a transcendental fact.
Mayur?
In the Brahma Samhita, it is said that the Lord has a transcendental form and that he can utilize any of his senses for any purpose. For example, he can eat with his eyes, he can see with his leg. In the mundane conception of form, one cannot eat with one's eyes or see with his leg. That is the difference between the mundane body and the spiritual body of Satchidanand. A spiritual body is not formless. It is a different type of body of which we cannot conceive with our present mundane senses. Formless therefore means devoid of mundane form or possessing a spiritual body of which the non-devotee can have no conception by the speculative method.
Savita?
The Lord discloses to the devotee his unlimited varieties of transcendental bodies, all identical with one another, with different kind of bodily features. Some of the transcendental bodies of the Lord are blackish, and some of them are whitish. Some of them are reddish, and some are yellowish. Some of them are four-handed, and some of them two-handed. Some of them are like the fish, and some are like the lion.
Manish Prabhu? Manish Prabhu? Okay. Tinaji?
All these different transcendental bodies of the Lord, without any differential category, are disclosed to the devotees of the Lord by the mercy of the Lord. And thus the impersonalist's false arguments claiming the formlessness of the supreme truth do not appeal to the devotee of the Lord, to a devotee of the Lord, even though such a devotee may not be very advanced in devotional service.
Alan?
The Lord has unlimited numbers of transcendental qualities, and one of them is his affection for his unalloyed devotee. In the history of the mundane world, we can appreciate his transcendental qualities. The Lord incarnates himself for the protection of his devotees and for the annihilation of the faithless. His activities are in relationship with his devotees. Srimad Bhagavatam is full of such activities of the Lord in relationship with his devotees, and the non-devotees have no knowledge of such pastimes.
Mukesh?
The Lord lifted the Govardhan hill when he was only 7 years old and protected his pure devotees at Vrindavan from the wrath of Indra, who was over flooding the place with rain. Now this lifting out of the Govardhan hill by a 7-year-old boy may be unbelievable for the faithless, but for the devotees, it is absolutely believable. The devotee believes in the almighty potency of the Lord, while the faithless say that the Lord is almighty but do not believe it. Such men with a poor fund of knowledge do not know that the Lord is the Lord eternally, and that one cannot become the Lord by meditation for millions of years or by mental speculation for billions of years.
Seema?
The impersonal interpretation of the mundane wranglers is completely refuted in this verse because it is clearly stated here that the Supreme Lord has his qualities, form, pastimes, and everything that a person has. All these descriptions of the transcendental nature of the personality of Godhead are factual realizations by the devotee of the Lord, and by the causeless mercy of the Lord, they are revealed to his pure devotee and to no one else.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Are there any? Does anybody have a question or a comment to begin with before we kind of look at this paragraph by paragraph in the purport? Questions or comments or thoughts?
Like the only way the Lord will reveal to anyone is by the causeless mercy of the Lord. So we have to get that causeless mercy of the Lord. So how can we get that mercy?
That's a good question. One thing, we need to begin with humility. Lord Brahma, who is certainly quite qualified in many ways, he's a very advanced personality, has a lifetime of unbelievable length, and intelligence and powers beyond any scope we can imagine. After his experience trying to bewilder, stealing the cows and the cowherd boys, and hiding them from Krishna, and then having Krishna to expand himself into all the different positions of cows and boys, he realized that he'd been completely defeated by the Lord. And this person, who's the king of the universe, he said, others may say that they can understand the Lord through their speculation and through their knowledge, but I am not going to be one of those that I understand that I can't understand Krishna except through his mercy. So it takes a lot of humility to begin with, because if he's that humble and he's much more advanced than us and he says, I can't understand Krishna, we need to have this sort of humility, because in this modern world, people get very puffed up, and they'll make some kind of analytical analysis of something. Like, for instance, in the end paragraphs it mentioned how Krishna holds up Govardhan Hill with his little finger, and the speculators can't understand this, where it's possible for someone's little finger to hold up a mountain. I mean, they'll get into all, and they'll try to figure out the scientific or the physical laws. This is because they have no faith. So the very first thing we need to do is to be so humble that we can accept the version given to us by the Lord without overlaying it with our speculations. So that's the very first thing. That's a good point, because we only can hear from him. And then from there, we can do things like chant the holy name, follow a process of Krishna consciousness, etc. Connect with Gurudev. Gurudev will give us information. He'll give us realization. If we look at this first paragraph, anybody have anything else to say? Gajendra had a very good point there, and I think we have to consider that very carefully.
Also, I think it emphasized the faith, because faith is also extremely important in addition to humility. And of course, and that's what it actually in purport it said, that if faithless, then he does not reveal, he conceals himself. Yes. So those are important things, faith and humility.
Very good.
Yes, they go hand in hand.
Yes.
And then if we look at the first paragraph, Prabhupada uses a very nice analogy here. He talks about the father has many sons, but it's his pet son that he will give his most confidential knowledge to. So devotees want to become the pet sons and daughters of the Lord by ingratiating ourselves to the Lord by service, by hearing and chanting about him, by becoming wrapped up in his pastimes. So this is very important. Krishna reveals to those whom he has an active relationship with.
Yeah.
And that's based on love, and it's based on humility and faith.
And selflessness.
And selflessness. Anybody else? Any other thoughts about this? We're on the first paragraph now. And it's also important to know that we cannot know him completely. Or if we do know him completely, it's only because he lets us. Yeah.
So in the verse itself, it says that let all this, my eternal form, transcendental existence, color, qualities and activities, let all this be awakened within you by factual realization. It is by the course of mercy, of course, but by personal realization, personal experience within the heart. It's not that one has to read something and believe that, it's that Krishna is manifesting within the heart. And the Brahma at this point is realizing in full depth all that Krishna is providing him for him to realize. So we have the mercy of the Lord that enables Lord Brahma to realize who the Supreme is. Of course, the Supreme is unlimited, so he can never be fully realized, but their realization comes because of that, because of the purity of the heart of Brahma and the fact that he is realizing it by the grace of the Lord.
It's very important to note that actually Lord Brahma, who is born directly from his navel, right? So lotus comes out, and then that's where he appears, Lord Brahma. And then it's very interesting and important to note that even that close relationship, he got bewildered. He was given all the knowledge. In spite of all that, he got lost. And then he stole the cows and cowherd boys. And then he understood afterwards the importance who he is, Lord Krishna, Supreme Personality of Godhead. So it's very important to note that. So what to talk about the simple, ordinary folks, the devotees who may not be at that level. It's very important to note that.
Yes.
Good point.
Very good point. In the second paragraph, point after point is made here. And if someone wants to look at the second paragraph and say what is one of the main points being made here in the second paragraph of the purport. Okay, Gajendra just highlighted. One can know the Lord if one has unflinching faith in the bona fide spiritual master as well as the Lord. Yes, we sing in the mornings, Yasya Prasada, Bhagavat Prasado, Yasya Prasada, Nakatika Topi. And we were supposed to, at least 3 times a day, pay obeisances to our Guru, because the Guru gives us his mercy. We understand Krishna, and Krishna is understood only by the Guru's mercy.
And also says, if the Guru is pleased, then the Supreme Lord is pleased. So we want to please the Supreme Lord, we have to go through the agency of the person who is representing him. Because what happens is that Krishna doesn't intervene directly in our lives. It does so. He makes himself known through the agency of a pure devotee. Because that's the position of the pure devotee, to be able to bring us to the Supreme Lord through him. Now the pure devotee is like a transparent biomedium. In other words, whatever flows through him, it goes all the way from the Supreme Lord to the person who is taking shelter, the devotee, in a very pure, uncontaminated, and non-distorted manner. So all the knowledge that is coming from the lips of the Lord get to us through the agency of the disciple succession, line after line, of pure devotees who are acting as gurus. Very important principle.
And another point made here is that no amount of mental gymnastics can help us understand Krishna.
Let's go to
and a faithful person may be illiterate, but have understanding of Krishna. Actually, if we look at the verse 725 of Bhagavad Gita, it says, Naham Prakasha Sarvasha Yoga Maya Samavrita Mudo Yam Nabijanati Loko Yam Majam Avyayam. Because it's stated here that the faithless, this Yoga Maya potency blinds the faithless. And in Bhagavad Gita, it talks about this, that I'm never manifest to the foolish and unintelligent. For them, I'm covered by my internal potency. It's a Yoga Maya potency. And therefore, they do not know that I am unborn and infallible. And unborn, it means, of course, that he doesn't have a body like us in the material world. He has a body, but it's a spiritual body. And this is a very important verse, as that Gajendra is now highlighting in the 725. And if we look at the verse before it, which is 724, Avyaktat vyaktim apanam manyate mam abudhaya, that means no knowledge, param bhavam ajanato mamavyayam anutamam. Or Abudaya Prabhupada calls it less intelligent persons. Unintelligent men who do not know me perfectly think that I, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, was impersonal before and have now assumed this personality. Due to their small knowledge, they do not know my higher nature, which is what? Imperishable and supreme. So, any other questions, thoughts? We can go on to the next paragraph.
In the Vedas, right?
In the Vedas, no, is it? Yeah. The Lord discloses.
Yeah.
No, in the Vedas.
The Lord discloses? No.
No, we just did in the Vedas. The Lord, to the faithful, the Lord. Yeah, yes, we've done that. We skipped in the Vedas.
To the faithful.
To the faithful, yes. We're to the faithful, that verse, yes. That.
Which one, Rohit?
Yeah, that we're on that
yes,
one.
Yes.
Thoughts or questions about this particular paragraph. There's a word there that's highlighted. It's a very important word. Yavan.
Yeah.
That Krishna says that he has an eternal form. And that form is not like our form. Formless does not mean no form. And who can explain how Krishna has a form even though he's called formless? Someone will say, I heard you say Krishna is formless, but then you say he has a form. How is that possible?
His form is his quality and pastimes.
That's partly true. I mean, yeah, I think you can't say it's wrong, but let's try to get a little more potent, a little more on target. It's not wrong.
His form.
Yeah.
What?
His form is beyond the effulgence of which is coming from his body. So it is like people reach up to Brahma Jyoti, and then form is beyond that.
Yes.
His form is spiritual. Yes, it's beyond the Brahma Jyoti, and Mukesh is right. It includes his qualities and his pastimes.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
But it's not material, because people think formless. You know, they think it means it means opposite of form. It means like invisible, or like smoke or something. Like
the opposite of form must be formless, and that is a mistake, because the opposite of form, material form, is spiritual form. That's the opposite. That's not formless. It's spiritual form and material form. He doesn't have a material form. He has a spiritual form. That's the difference. He has eyes, and he has face and hair and fingers. He has a form, but is Satchit Ananda Vigraha, a form made of eternity, knowledge, and bliss. That's how he's defined. It's not a blob of energy.
Yeah, and the impersonalists would have it that there's no form, and then in their most pernicious form, that is the Mayavadis, they say that not only has no form, but that we're all part of that no form, and eventually we can, if we have high enough consciousness, we all merge into that no form, and we're all the same.
And we're God.
And we're God.
Whatever that is.
Everything's God, and we're all God.
There's a difference between everything is God and everything is divine. It's not the same thing, but two different things.
Yeah, everything is God is really a problem, because that really is a position of a very envious position, saying that once I get rid of my material body and my misconceptions, I'll realize that I'm God. Well, if you're God, Prabhupada would say, then lift Govardhan Hill and manifest a universal form.
Questions, anyone?
Any questions? This is pretty thick philosophical material. I hope everybody feels comfortable with this. Prabhupada likes to use the word mundane wrangler.
Something that is very important that we have mentioned several times before, and there is a verse in the Bhagavatam, is that the Supreme Lord is, in the Bhagavad Gita, he says, I am the Supreme Person. And he says, I am the Paramatma sitting in the hearts of all living entities. And then he says, all of these verses are from the Bhagavad Gita, and he says, I am the source of Brahman. Brahman is like emanation that comes from me. So to think that this Brahman, this kind of energy, blob of energy is the Supreme Lord, is a misconception, because that is his emanation. So he is the Supreme Person. He is the Paramatma situated in the heart of every living entity. And he is the source of Brahman. And there is a verse in the Bhagavatam where it says Krishna can be understood in three phases: as the Supreme Person, as the personality of Godhead, and as the Brahman effulgence.
As the Paramatma.
Paramatma, and this, and the Brahma, the effulgence.
And I see this is highlighted, the difference between between the mundane body and the spiritual body. And it talks about how Krishna, he's not limited in his body. He can see with his foot and he can eat with his eyes. And Prabhupada uses, I was saying earlier, he likes this term mundane wranglers, which is these college professors, these philosophers, these people who are using their brains to try to understand that which is beyond our understanding, and therefore they can only come up with imaginative ideas, because they have to create something that is being created out of their own speculation. And their speculation can only reach so far. The example, of course, is the story of Dr. Frog, who lived in a well, who thought the well was very big. But when his friend told him about the ocean, he couldn't possibly gather the idea. He said, well, maybe it's 5 times as big as my well, or 10 times. He said, no, it's much bigger than that. And poor Dr. Frog, died trying to imagine how great the ocean was, because he only had an understanding of his well. So maybe 10 times bigger was good, but as we know, the ocean is unlimitedly bigger than a well. Any other thoughts? You can go to the next paragraph. The Lord discloses the transcendental nature of his existence, and Prabhupada again uses the term mundane wranglers. Yeah, any questions?
I think one important message in this whole purport is that the most important thing is to be faithful. Most important thing is to have faith. As Prabhuji was saying, that for people who are doing mental gymnastics, Lord is beyond their speculation. But for devotees, it's very easy to get him, because there is a process for us to go and do it. So how, at one level, all these, what I call people who have a lot of knowledge, are trying to see, are trying to figure out what the Lord is. On the other hand, a devotee who may be, but because of his faith, they are able to, get to Lord more quickly and more easily than any of these people. So it's,
because the Lord will reveal himself to the devotee.
Yeah.
Because with intellectual knowledge, it is impossible to grasp the Supreme Lord. It's absolutely impossible. It's preposterous. Can never be achieved. It's not when the Lord decides, okay, I'm going to reveal myself, that then he can be known at that time. And he reveals himself only to those who love him, not to those who don't.
And only the devotee is actually able to accommodate the idea that God can do anything. A person who's, again, full of mundane knowledge. That's not our phone. That's his.
No, that's my PC. I think it's going to restart in 5 minutes, but that's okay. I think you can.
Okay, I thought it was ours. I was thinking.
I don't know, but so but that's okay. You can still continue discussion, and I will join in once it restarts. But that will happen in 5 minutes. So,
okay. Yeah. So the point is that we were saying that the person who's thinking, it's like, imagine again, like you've got a computer, and before the age of, before we were all online on the internet, each computer only had a much computing power that you could stick into the computer itself. They just set, so it was just a discrete unit by itself, and that's all its power. But once we now have our computers linked to the internet and to all these huge supercomputers, we have so much computing power. So the devotees are linked to Krishna, who's got huge computing power. Unlimited. Whereas the speculators, they may have a big machine, but it's not connected to the big power, the big Krishna internet. And therefore, you know, they only have so much power, and their machine goes haywire trying to figure it out.
That's a good analogy. That's very good.
We have to connect to Krishna's absolute power. So, scroll down again. I guess the Lord has unlimited numbers of transcendental qualities. Please, whoever is reading that, chime in if you have a question or some thoughts.
The Lord appears in the mundane world in order to protect his devotees, because there are so many people, say some devotees, some people who are devotees, who are trying to perfect their lives and still in the material world. So he's coming to attract them to him, to accelerate or speed up the process of returning back to the Supreme Lord. So this is the Lord's mission, always in relationship with his devotees. And in relationship with the devotees, the Supreme Lord is reciprocating. It's not like he's just on the receiving end. There is always a give and take. The devotees give to the Supreme Lord, and the Supreme Lord reciprocates. And he says that, as you surrender unto me, as the person surrenders unto me, I reward that person accordingly in the same manner, but always with excessive or very, very intense devotion toward the devotee, and with full blessings for the devotee.
And there's a really nice sentence in this paragraph. The devotee believes in the almighty potency of the Lord, while the faithless say that the Lord is almighty, but do not believe it.
Yeah.
Some people say, oh, God is great. He's all powerful. But when you actually bring up that he's all powerful, they'll say, well, he couldn't do that. Well, how can you say he can't do that? He can't do that. He can't take a form of a fish. He can't take a form. I mean, if you actually go to certain, philosophers, oh, what do you mean? How can God take the form of a fish? Well, or a lion, or what? Well, how can you say? You say he's all powerful, but then when you give somebody an example, he said, no, he can't do that.
Is the idea of limiting the power of the Supreme Lord? Is because the comments are such that they are limiting the Supreme Lord, and then it goes back to the same idea that there is envy of the Supreme Lord. So we want to eliminate the Supreme Lord. We want to limit him. We want to get rid of him, and that is the predicament of the material mind.
So we need to faith Gurudev and faith in the holy name,
in the holy scripture,
and association with our good friends who are devotees, and be together and chant together and share together, because this is how we develop our faith.
And Srimad Bhagavatam becomes again and again, right? Like even Bhishma Pitama, Maharani Kunti, everywhere it has been revealed that Lord Krishna is the supreme personality.
Yes,
absolutely.
Everywhere.
And not just only in the Bhagavad Gita and in the Bhagavatam, there are so many scriptures, so many Upanishads, so many scriptures that they clearly